Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on to better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
Hello everyone, I'm Detective Brandy George with the Mesa Police Department. This critical incident community briefing will provide you with information about an officer-involved shooting that occurred here in Mesa. You are about to see relevant video footage and learn about evidence and police procedures related to this case so you can better understand the department's significant amount of forensic, which means this policy video we will be sharing other surveys. Anytime of disturbing, your discretion is strongly advised, especially for young children and sensitive viewers.
Hello, I'm Detective Richard Encinas with the Mesa Police Department's Media Relations Unit.
So pay attention to the badge and the shirt. All right? Just pay attention to that, and I'll back it up so you can
Advised, especially for young children and sensitive viewers.
Hello, I'm Detective Richard Encinas with the Mesa Police Department's Media Relations Unit. On February 17th, Encinas with the Mesa Police Department.
That looks like it's fucking photoshopped on. Like, they put an image of a badge, freeze frame on the screen, around the area where he'd have a badge at. But as he's moving, the fucking badge doesn't move.
And sensitive viewers.
Hello, I'm Detective Richard Encinas with the Mesa Police Department's Media Relations Unit.
What the fuck did he do? Lose his badge? That's some janky shit. Like, they should have just redone that take. Like, if he lost his badge, like, I don't know what the fuck. Like, if the badge wasn't there, they could have at least borrowed someone else's badge. I mean, it's not like the viewers are going to be able to see, you know, if he has, you know, if they got unit numbers on there. It's not like they're going to be able to see the unit number and know the difference. Like, that looks janky.
On February 17th at around 2:43 a.m., a Mesa police officer was monitoring an overt camera system at Alma School and Main Street in Mesa. While monitoring the camera, he observed two men who appeared to be arguing in the parking lot of the Circle K. One of the men pulled out a gun. Here is a radio call from the officer monitoring the overt camera.
I got a subject at the bus stop 1144 West Main with the principal 422.
Copy.
Looks like he was arguing with another male and went into the store. And he's outside, waiting at the bus stop.
Is he holding the 422? Is it holster? Or?
No, looks like he's got it in his right hand.
So, the overt cameras. There are some places across the country that have these big cameras mounted up on, like, utility poles. And they're spread out, you know, throughout the area. And an officer or like a dispatcher or someone, you know, hired to monitor cameras could be accessing these cameras at any given time, just looking around, seeing what's going on, and relay information to officers about what's going on. So I think that's a great force multiplier, so to speak. It gives you more eyes, so to speak, all across a large region. So you may only have, let's say, for example, there's only 10 to 15 officers working or something like that in an area. Just because there's 15 officers working doesn't mean there's 15 always driving around every single second. Some of them may be tied up on calls. You know, one or two may be tied up sitting with a person who's being detained for an emergency mental evaluation. They have to sit there until they get evaluated. One might be sitting at the hospital with someone wanting to take them to jail, but they need to get medically cleared for incarceration. Two might be stuck at a domestic dispute, you know, dealing with that. One might be on a traffic stop somewhere. 3 or 4 might be handling some type of robbery investigation. Like, there's multiple things that could be going on, multiple calls that could be going on that ties these officers up for long periods of time, and areas are not being actively patrolled like people would want them to be. And so when you have, let's say, some dispatch personnel or even some office personnel, or there's someone hired specifically to watch cameras, that allows that person to do just that, look at cameras. And when they're able to be able to do that, they're able to see a lot more stuff going on when all these other officers are busy doing things. Now, if you've ever worked a control room that had multiple camera views, then you'll understand that even though you may have 50 fucking camera feeds right there in front of you, you can't actively see all 50 damn things that are going on. It's just, that's impossible. You can only see one thing at a time, or even see one thing with detail at a time. So you may have a shit ton of camera feeds right there in front of you, but you have to look at each feed to see what's going on. You can't just automatically see all 50 at once and know everything that's going on. So even though it's great to have all these cameras, there is some drawbacks to it, and that's one of them. Even though you can see everything, you can't see everything. And so this person is about to do some stupid shit right in front of this camera. And this camera is one of those cameras that I think has a blue light on it, because you can see the reflection coming off this road sign. And here in a little bit, you'll see reflections coming off another road sign when it pans out and goes out into the middle of the street. But I'll replay it right here so you can see the blue
appeared to be arguing in the parking lot of the Circle K. One of the men pulled out a gun. Here is a radio call from the officer monitoring the overt camera.
So some of those overt cameras have a blue light on them that constantly flash. It's kind of like hey, here I am. I'm a crime deterrent. Don't do stupid shit in front of me. So people get used to those cameras, and because, like I said, even though you've got 50 feeds right there in front of you, you don't get to see every single thing that goes on. So some of these people have figured that out. They know that even though the camera's there, they don't always get caught when they do stuff in front of it. There's probably been a lot of them who've done stuff in front of that camera and no police showed up, because the person watching the cameras was watching something else. They were watching a different camera feed with something going on and wasn't able to notice the other one where someone was doing something. So some people will get this feeling of, oh, that's a camera, but no one watches it, or oh, it's just it's there for looks. They incorrectly think that no one's watching, but reality of the matter is they just don't know when someone will be watching.
And looks like he's waiting for that subject to come out of the Circle K.
The officer monitoring this incident kept the camera on the man with the gun. That man, later identified as Ringo Van Winkle, was standing by the bus stop talking to two people and waving a gun around. After a few moments, Van Winkle can be seen running into the intersection of Alma School and Main, where he stands in the middle of the street and fires several rounds from his gun in a northwest direction.
So the pole right here, that's where you can see the blinking blue light. Anyway, so this guy runs out in the middle of the street and just starts blasting. I'll back this up. Like, what the hell is he shooting at?
After firing his gun in the intersection, Van Winkle runs back to the sidewalk and walks eastbound on Main Street when the first officer arrives and calls for him to get on the ground and drop his weapon. This is when the officer-involved shooting occurs. Here's the footage of the first officer's body-worn camera as he arrives at the scene.
Get on the ground!
All right.
This is when the officer-involved shooting occurs. Here's the footage of the first officer's body-worn camera as he arrives at the scene.
Get on the ground!
So, one of the things that I often gripe about in some of these videos is officers neglecting to get out of their cars without a rifle. This is not the case. This officer is doing the right thing right off the bat. He is knowingly responding to a call where a person has a gun, and he gets his rifle out. That is the correct thing to do. Too many videos I've done where officers go to a call involving a person with a gun, and all they get out is with their pistol. Rifles dominate fights. They dominate gunfights. Pistols suck. They really do. Rifles are more accurate because they have longer barrels and you have more points of contact on the weapon itself. And the terminal ballistics are devastating. Pistols, you got a very short barrel, you only have 2 points of contact with it, and the terminal ballistics suck ass. There are a lot of people walking around today who've been shot with a pistol and they survived. There are not that many people walking around today who've been shot with a rifle and survived. There's some, but there's not many, especially compared to those who've been shot with pistol. Rifles will dominate a gunfight, and they will stop the threat faster. The faster you can stop the threat, the better. The faster you can stop the threat, the faster you save your own life. The faster that you save other people's lives. The faster that you prevent other people from becoming seriously physically injured, disabled, or disfigured for the rest of their life. You want to stop that fight as fast as possible. And the best way to do that is with a rifle. So he is doing the right thing by immediately dismounting from the vehicle with a rifle in hand. Now, you can tell that the rifle was in a stowed configuration because the sling is still bunched up right here. So that tells me that he most likely has his rifle stowed in the cab of the vehicle. Now that could be in a roof rack where it's mounted to the ceiling above him in the vehicle, or it could be in between the seats sitting vertically. I don't know which one, but based off how the sling and everything is, I think that to be true. Probably most likely it's in a vertical configuration. So I think that he grabbed the rifle from the mount as soon as he got there. Otherwise, I think that we would see that he would have yanked the sling out of its stowed configuration all the way, and it would be dangling more. Instead, it's more bunched up and configured the way it is. What I recommend when going to calls like this is, and it depends on how your rifle is set up. So if your rifle is in your trunk or it's in the cargo hold, you're going to have to stop your car to get out. And it's best, I think, to stop your car before you ever get on scene. So when you get the call, just stop, get out, get that rifle out of the carrying case, get back into the cab of the vehicle, sling it around your neck like a necklace or a one-point configuration, charge it up, and then proceed to the scene. That way, when you get there, you can get out with the rifle in hand. Whereas, if you get on scene and you have not done that, then you get on scene, then you have to get out, go back to the trunk, go back to the cargo hold area, open that up, open up the case that it's in, get it out, and go through all that shit. If you were to roll up on scene and the gunfight's already happening, you're probably not going to have time to do that. You're going to have to go at it with your pistol. So, it's best to stop well before you ever get there, get it out, charge it, sling it, be ready to rock and roll with it when you get there. If the rifle's in the cab of the vehicle, then you can still stop, get it out of its mount, charge it, sling it, rock on. Or if you can safely do it while driving, you can pull it from its mount while driving and sling it and charge it, and then when you get on scene, rock and roll with it. Either way, the idea is to have that rifle ready when you roll up on scene. That way, when you dismount from the vehicle, you've got it. It's on you. It's charged. It is ready to go. And with that configuration, one thing that I recommend is a mag coupler. That way you have 2 mags on the rifle. Not so much in the sense that because you might run out of ammo by doing a mag dump, but to be able to fix the rifle in the event that first mag there's something wrong with it. And typically that's why an additional magazine is going to be needed for a weapon, is because of the first magazine there's some type of issue with it, what have you. So you need to fix the problem by putting a new magazine in the gun. If you're not a big mag coupler fan, then I think that the buttstock pouches that hold an extra magazine on it is the next best option. That way, on board with that rifle, you got 2 mags. If you just dismount from the vehicle with the rifle only, you didn't have time to grab a plate carrier or a go bag or something like that, then you've at least got a rifle that has 2 magazines on it. And with that being said, I think that a tourniquet should be mounted to that rifle somewhere, either Ranger banded to the buttstock, or depending on what kind of sling you've got and tourniquet you've got, you can get a pouch to go on the sling to hold a tourniquet as well. But the biggest point, the most important point, is getting out with a rifle in hand in a deadly force encounter like this. So I'll back it up and let it play uninterrupted.
The footage of the first officer's barring Warren Campbell as he arrives at the scene.
Get on the ground! Drop it! Where's he at? Where's he at? He's down right there. Right there. Stop right here. 998. Do not move! Do not move! You won't get shot again! Let's go to your car. Back away. Stay down!
Van Winkle falls.
Okay, we'll back this up.
Footage of the first officer's barring Warren
Get on the
Campbell
ground
as he
now!
arrives at the scene.
Get on the ground!
So you can't see very well because of the camera, but the guy's in the red. Now there's another person on the sidewalk. So when this officer shoots, this dude on the sidewalk over here doesn't really react to it very much. Kind of acts very nonchalant. So kind of pay attention to the guy over here and how he acts to all the gunfire.
Drop it! Where's he at? Where's he at? He's down right there. Right there. Stop right
He's
here.
still standing there.
998. Do not move! Do not move! You won't get shot again! Let's go to your car. Back away.
Such odd behavior, I think. Like, what the hell is this dude doing on the sidewalk? And he doesn't have his arms up. Like, he's not putting his hands up in the air, acting like he's afraid that, he could be shot or anything like that. He's just kind of wandering on the sidewalk, and it looks like he's got his hands up around his torso area, kind of like he's holding a phone and looking down at it. Sometimes people's behaviors can be very peculiar, and this one is definitely fucking peculiar.
Stay down!
Van Winkle falls to the ground, and officers put together an immediate action team to approach him and take him into custody. Officers continue to ask Van Winkle to show his hands and take him into custody. To the ground, and officers put together an immediate action
So they're doing
team to
a
approach him and take him into custody. Officers continue to ask
like a rolling cover with the vehicle. Like, I get the idea behind why they want the vehicle to be rolling forward with them hiding behind it as cover. But when you really look at vehicles after they've been shot, and you've shot vehicles, then you will understand that vehicles suck when it comes to using them as cover. There's a reason why vehicles are referred to as bullet magnets. they don't stop rounds very well. A 22 long rifle will go through a car door, no problem whatsoever. It'll go straight through that motherfucker. And it can go through the second car door as well. So if you shoot from driver's side of the vehicle, shooting through to the passenger side, like, you can make a 22 long rifle go completely through both sets of doors. Depends on where you hit it out in the door, and where it'll hit one of the interior door panels and what's inside the door itself. As long as it doesn't hit anything that would deflect that round or slow it down enough, it can make it through both door panels. 9mm for sure going through both panels. Rifle sure as hell is going through. The bodies of the vehicles just do not stop rounds. The things that stop rounds are the big, thick pieces of metal. For example, the engine block, the axles. Those can stop bullets pretty well. Other than that, the rest of the vehicle, you might as well be hiding behind a fucking bush. Like, they fucking suck for cover. If you're ever around a vehicle in a gunfight, get the hell away from it. Now, if it's your only form of cover, that is your only form of cover. Now, you can maximize it by how you position yourself around that vehicle, trying to put as much mass between you and the threat as possible. But general rule of thumb is vehicles suck for cover. Don't be around them. Now, they're rolling forward in this vehicle. They're using it as cover. The issue I have with it is the vehicle just sucks for cover. I think that they could have been better off just approaching on the sidewalk in a wedge formation or something like that, approaching him, and they still would have been able to get the same desired effect. When I think about these rolling vehicles used as cover, I always think about the person who's inside the vehicle and how exposed they are. Because they really are exposed. They're sitting right there in the cab of that vehicle. They can't as easily duck down behind stuff. It's not like they can go lay flat in the dash, in the floorboard, because there's the big ass console right there in the middle, the fucking laptop and everything. There is no laying down in the floorboard to hide behind the engine block. Like, you're stuck in a seated position unless you're a really small petite person who could maybe slide down in their seat a little bit. You're not fucking going anywhere inside that vehicle. Like, you are stuck in a seated position. So your only option is to drive through the threat, drive over it, drive away in another direction, or dismount the vehicle quickly by going out the door. Otherwise, those bullets are going through that windshield super easy. Like, they're going to go through it no problem whatsoever. It's going to go through the door panel, no problem whatsoever. It's kind of a shitty ass place to be. Anyway, moving on.
Van Winkle to show his hands and fire a less lethal beanbag round.
Hands! Put your hands up front! Other hand!
Now, are you going to take it?
You.
I'm going to send a beanbag.
As they approach, he reaches his left hand toward his waistband.
Okay.
Up front! Other hand!
Now, are you going to take it?
You.
I'm going to send a beanbag.
So I like this tactic of using a less lethal to gain compliance out of someone after they've been shot, or they're not moving, and still deploying a less lethal at them. Some people could be playing possum, acting like they're unconscious or dead, in hopes that when someone gets up close to them, they'll be able to quickly take them out. That way, they can at least take someone with them, kind of thing. So using a less lethal weapon is a great way to determine whether or not a person is playing possum. Some people can fight through the pain that a less lethal causes, and it may not incapacitate them, but you can't fight through the feeling of it. You can't fight through the you can't hide the reaction of being hit with it. Like, it fucking hurts. Even though you can fight through that and take it, you're still going to have a reaction. Like, you're still going to recoil from it, so to speak. You're still going to grimace or go grunt or something. Like, there's going to be some kind of reaction to being hit with it. Unless the person has been hit in the spine and they're paralyzed waist down, and you hit them in the lower extremity with that less lethal, that, of course, you wouldn't get a reaction out of them. But other than that, you're going to get some kind of reaction out of them. And so I think that that's a good tactic to use when someone is on the ground after being shot with live ammo, and they're not responding to you whatsoever, or they're just not doing what you want them to do. Go ahead, continue to use force against them. You might not have the justification to continue using deadly physical force, but you certainly have the justification to use some amount of force, and less lethals are an option. Impact munitions are an option. Tasers are an option. And this is a good use of force.
As they approach, he reaches.
Another good one is deploying the canine on people like this. Some of the canines are trained to be able to bite down, and when the handler pulls back on the leash, the dog is able to actually drag the person back some distance. And it's not like they're going to be able to drag them a mile or anything like that. But they're going to drag them a little bit of a distance away from where they're at. That way you can separate them from the gun itself, unless the gun is still tucked into their waistband, or it's in their hand, or it's under them, or positioned to where as they're being dragged, their arm is dragging it with them. Those you can't do anything about, but if it's off to the side, then the dog can at least drag that person away from the gun itself. And if the person becomes a deadly threat at that point, then at least the only risk of anything losing its life is going to be the dog versus a human.
His left hand toward his waistband, and that's when another officer deploys a taser, and the first officer fires his rifle.
Don't move! Stop reaching!
Once secured, officers begin.
So we'll play that again.
Officer fires his rifle.
Don't move! Stop reaching!
Once secured, officers begin life-saving measures. Medical personnel arrived and took Van Winkle to the hospital, where he was pronounced deceased. During the investigation, a handgun secured officers.
Ending.
Once secured, officers began.
So we see that they're rendering some kind of medical aid to him. She's using shears to cut the pants away. This is a pretty common practice after police have had to use deadly physical force. They go ahead and render first aid to the person. When it comes to medical gear, you for sure need to be carrying medical gear on you. If you're going to carry the tools to induce trauma, you should carry the tools to reduce trauma. If you carry a gun for a living, whether you're paid to do that or you just make that conscious decision to do it on your own as an armed citizen, you need to realize that you could be involved in a gunfight, and gunfights mean bullets go both directions, and you could be hit by an incoming round. If you, as an armed citizen, carry a gun and you have the mindset that you being able to defend yourself with a gun is quicker than calling 911 and having a cop come defend you, then you should also recognize the fact that you being able to give yourself medical aid is a lot quicker than calling 911 and waiting on an ambulance to come give you medical aid. If you're an officer, whether security or police, then and if you have the mindset of, well, if something happens, the ambulance will come, you're fucking wrong. That is a wrong mindset to have. You need to be able to take care of yourself and your teammates, because an ambulance may not be able to get there on time. It may take 5 to 7 minutes for an ambulance to get on scene. And if there's been shots fired, we all know fire and EMS stage a distance away until they're told to come to the scene. And so if they know they're going to a shooting, they're probably going to pause before rolling directly up on scene, and they may be having their dispatch contact the police dispatch to get verification that the scene is in fact safe. So there could be a delay right there. If you're shot in the leg and your femoral artery's been hit, you got 90 seconds. There's not a fucking ambulance in this world that can respond to a call in 90 seconds. It's impossible. It's not happening. So you have to have not just the tools, but you also have to have that knowledge as well. Most agencies and most companies will do the bare minimum. They will do a CPR, AED, first aid class. The CPR, AED part is good. Those classes are good just for that. The first aid portion within those classes, in my opinion, kind of sucks. It's kind of a glossed over kind of thing. It's just a thrown in there kind of deal. I don't think enough time and repetition is done on that stuff, and I just don't think that the curriculum for what is given is sufficient to be able to treat traumatic injuries. So the first aid portion within your typical CPR, AED, first aid class is going to be a very broad first aid exposure, and it's going to cover stuff like environmental emergencies, like a heat stroke, frostbite, bug bites, having allergic reaction, poison control, little shit like that. When it gets into trauma stuff, it's very basic. It's wrap a limb with a bandage. That's the training. They'll wrap your arm with a bandage, apply pressure, wrap it up with a bandage. There may be a video on how to apply a tourniquet, but the majority, if not all these classes, are not going to have a tourniquet trainer for students to utilize and practice putting on. So the only hands-on stuff with most of these CPR, AED, first aid classes when it comes to the first aid stuff is going to be an epinephrine injector trainer, maybe an inhaler trainer to assist someone on, taking their inhaler, and then the bandages, putting a bandage on a person, applying pressure and then wrapping it with a bandage, and then having a triangular bandage, making a cravat out of that. Those are about the only hands-on things you're going to do in a CPR, AED, first aid class. You're typically not going to have a tourniquet trainer where the students take that tourniquet and they apply it to another student and then put on something like a combat pressure dressing and go from there. That's just not what that coursework is. That course is really set up for the common person to, one, deal with CPR, AED, which is its bread and butter, and then as an extra to that is some first aid stuff like an office-related accident, a very minor workplace accident. That's it. There's a difference between first aid and trauma, not just from the equipment, but from practice as well. So equipment-wise, a first aid box that you go buy from a place like Walmart, that's a boo-boo kit. All that damn thing has in it is fucking Band-Aids, a cold press pack, some tweezers, tongue depressors, maybe some triple antibiotic ointment, and maybe some alcohol pads, little stuff like that. Shit that is not going to help you with a gunshot wound or a fucking stab wound. It's just not going to help. You can't take a Band-Aid and put it over a bullet hole. It's not going to fucking work. So those are what I call boo-boo kits. Trauma kits have things made with trauma in it. It's got tourniquets in it. It's got combat dressings in it. It's got rolls of Kerlix in there. It's got your airways in there. It's got stuff to deal with a person who has very traumatic injuries and keep them stable enough so they can get to the hospital. A boo-boo kit's not going to have that. And this training that most places do is along the lines of boo-boo stuff. It's not real great trauma stuff. So if all you have is a CPR, AED, first aid class, you need to do more. You need to get additional training because that's not going to help you when it comes to traumatic injuries. It may give you an idea of what needs to be done, but it's not going to get you prepared for it in any way, shape, or form.
Again, life-saving measures. Medical personnel arrived and took Van Winkle to the hospital where he was pronounced deceased. During the investigation, a handgun was recovered near Van Winkle. At this point in the investigation, we know that one officer fired a total of 4 rounds with his rifle. He has been with the department for 7 years, and this is his second officer-involved shooting.
Do work.
The officer that fired a less lethal beanbag round has been with the department for 5 years. The officer that deployed his taser has been with the department for 5 years.
I wish that they would have provided more information about this handgun that old Van Winkle here had. I would be willing to bet that it was probably a stolen handgun.
All of the information and evidence in this case will be presented to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office for review. Thank you for taking the time to watch this critical incident.
Okay, so pretty short video, but a really good one. Again, I just can't stress it enough that rifles dominate gunfights. If you know you're going to a call that's involving gunplay, get your fucking rifle out. Not much else to say about this video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.